Hello, my name is Eamon Kelly and I'm going to use Adobe Illustrator to create a logo, something like you see on the screen. And as you can see, it has got two circles, one inner dark blue circle and one outer one, which is light blue. It's also got lines here in the center to represent mountains. We've got two skis and we've got some text here as well. I'm creating this video specifically for students who are studying A-level IT 9626. And this has been taken from the 2017 Specimen paper. However, it's also useful for anybody who is studying Adobe Illustrator or maybe starting with graphic design as well. So some of the skills that we'll cover, we'll create layers and rearrange them. As you can see, we'll also create circles. In this case, we're going to use a dialog box, use fill and scope for color and borders, add text and we need to curve it, and we're going to create irregular shapes. In this case, we're talking about the skis using the curvature tool, and then we're going to export the image as a JPEG file. Now, I recommend that you, particularly for students doing this exam, that they would highlight the examination paper, highlight the important points. In this case here, I'm going to highlight, or I have already done so, highlighted the important points in a PDF on the PDF exam paper. Also, I recommend using a notepad to take some notes, and I've got my notepad here as well. You see here on the side, which I use to take notes while I'm doing some stuff, and sometimes notes that I can actually just copy and paste into the Illustrator file. The good thing about Notepad, using Notepad as opposed to using a word processing application, is that it doesn't hold on to fonts or formats, so you won't have any problem there. Also, for example, in this case here, we'll see that the image size must be 150 by 150. So some information to help me that I can use as I work through the paper, and also the file name, and also with the candidate number or center number and candidate number. Okay, so also the other recommendation is following this YouTube video that you might, if it's going too slow for you at times, or maybe going a little bit fast, then you use the playback speed to slow it down or to speed it up. Okay, this is the exam paper itself, and as you can see, we have a scenario here where you work for international ski tours, and they ask you to create this logo. Again, I've highlighted this here, but I've also shown you an example of the logo. So you use two circles as the background, a larger one and a smaller one with light blue and dark blue. And then we must also have the company's name inserted between the two circles. Also, we're going to use a white outline to represent the mountains, and we're also going to insert the company's name. The company's name, as I mentioned, must fit between the two circles and must cover approximately the top half of the circle. Make the text a suitable color. We must add an outline to the text and also a shadow. Excuse me. We'll also draw the skis, and they must be placed between the two circles and behind the text and the mountains. See this here, behind mountains and text. So this is where we're going to be using sort of like changing, rearranging layers. And we must resize the image to 150 pixels by 150 pixels. Must be saved as a JPEG. And the file name should start with ist_logo, underscore your center number and your candidate number. So going straight over to Adobe Illustrator, here's something that I created earlier on. So it's going to be something like this here. So we go File, so here we've got, if you're new to Adobe Illustrator, you might have a screen like this here. I usually go to Print, choose A4, and over here at the side we've got our dimensions. We're working with pixels, or we've been asked to work with pixels. You could easily be asked to work with millimeters, centimeters, and so on. But here we choose pixels. I'm going to select the size of the canvas from the beginning. So Control C, Control V. And here we have our canvas. Now, a few just things I'd like to point out, particularly for people who are new to Adobe Illustrator. Here's the side I find really useful is the hand tool. This allows me to move the canvas around. Now, sometimes what might happen is that the canvas goes off screen. I go up to View, Fit All on Screen. So very, very handy to use this here. View, Fit All on Screen. The other one I use quite a lot is the Zoom tool. And again, if I press down on the left mouse key and then move forward, sometimes this can be a little bit tedious trying to go into Window, View Zoom Out, View Zoom Out, and so on. So I'm going to go back into this here just to fit all in Window. Okay. Over on the left hand side, we see we've got properties and layers. These are the two most important ones for us. So we've got layers and properties. If you don't have these on your screen, you may have to go into Windows and choose them from here. So you've got properties, you see is the active one at the moment. You've also got layers and so on. Okay, back to our paper. We've been asked to create our two circles. Okay, I'm going to use layers. I find using layers really useful because if we make a mistake on one of the layers, we can easily remove it and create a new layer. Okay, so our first layer, and I like to rename them. I think it's a good idea to rename them as in use appropriate names. So the first layer we're going to use is going to be large circle. Over here. Okay, we need to go over to the shape tool here. Here at the moment it's called the rectangle tool, and you see there's a small little arrow down the right hand side. I'm going to press on this here. I'm going to use the ellipse tool. Now I could drag and create my circle here, but I'm actually just going to press once. And this dialog box is going to come up, and I'm going to put 150. Control C. Control V. Okay, so I see straight away that this is supposed to be a light blue on the inside. I'll work with that in a second, and also I find the border is a little bit too large. But first of all, I'm going to go over to the selection tool on the left-hand side, and I'm going to move this into place. Now I could also use the arrow keys to move this into place. And you see I've got it. It's now centered. Next, I need to go over here. So the properties of this, I want to go over to properties. I see that the fill is white. I want to click on this here. I could click on the swatches here, this here, and I can play around with colors. I'm going to quickly just choose one of this here, like this blue here, or possibly this blue here. I'm not sure. No, it's slightly dark. This blue here. I want to change, and you can see the blue here. This over here that the fill is this blue here. And we're also going to go to the stroke. I'm going to work on the right hand side with the stroke here. I'm happy that the stroke is black. I could easily choose this one here, which is just got no stroke or has got no border, but I'm going to stay with black. However, I find this too large, so I'm going to click on the back over in the stroke. I'm going to click on this here. Okay, I could change it here, and also I could change things like the corners and so on. I don't need this at the moment. I'm going to click on this down arrow, and I'm going to click 0.5, which is fine for me here. Good. Okay, back over to my layers. I want to go onto a new layer. I want to create a new layer, but before doing so, I'm going to actually lock this one here. So down to the bottom right, create new layer, and I'm going to call this small circle. Back over here, I'm going to pick the same tool here, the left hand side, the ellipse tool. Click on this here just once, and click on the screen as well. Now this I'm going to make smaller. You may need to play around a little bit with this here, but I'm going to try 110 pixels. Control C. Control V. Okay. Again, we see the fill isn't the right color. We can work with that in properties shortly. I'm going to move it into place first of all. As I move it into place, you'll probably see that the word center will show up once it's centered. There we go, we're in the center. Now, for me to build my text after this, I'm going to move this down. I'm going to use the arrow key to move it down. Okay. Now I'm going to go over to the right hand side. I'm going to click on properties because I need a darker blue here. And I'm going to choose this one here. I'm going to click away. And I'm happy with that. Back over to layers. I'm going to lock my layer. I'm going to go down to new layer. Same time I'm going to go back to my exam paper because I need to look at this here to see what I need to do next. Suitable distance left between the small to insert the company's name. I've done that. Okay, draw a white outline to represent a picture of 3 mountains. Okay. So I'm going to call this mountains. And in this case here, I need to find the pencil tool. I also need to change the color here. I'm going to change, maybe I'll change the color first of all. Oh, it's not allowing me to do so. Okay, I need to find the pencil tool. I think it's here. It is, yeah. So here's the pencil tool. Now that I've chosen the tool, now I can change over here in properties. I can change the color. I want this to be white. And I want this to be a little bit larger than 2. I also don't want a black stroke. I want this to be white. Okay, I'm using a mouse, and I think it's much easier to use a mouse for this than using a touchpad. Using the touchpad, so I'm going to try to do this here. Okay, this is not working for me for some reason. Let's try it again. Fill, stroke, 2. Okay, this time it is. I'm going to okay, Control Z. I'm going to undo that. Start again. Okay. Okay, I'm happy enough with that. I can do a little bit of work on this here, but okay, you see this? I've got this sort of like bounding box, and probably a better name for it than that, but I'm going to make this a little bit smaller using that because I want this to be within. Now using the arrow keys, I want to move it into place. Okay, good. Back over to my layers. I'm going to lock this one. Back over to the exam paper. Okay, insert the company's name. The text must fit and go around the smaller circle from left to right, covering the top half. We need an outline and a shadow. Suitable color outline and a shadow. Okay, so here we're talking about the text. New layer. Simply just call it text. Okay. It's going to go over here as well. My text is going to be this here, International Ski Tours. Control C, copying that. I'm also going to, what I need to do here is I need to create a path. So I'm going to click on this here, the pen tool. I need to create a path. This can be tricky and I may have to do this a couple of times. Okay, that's supposed to be central. Okay, I see I'm getting a fill here as well. I can change this in a second. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this here. You may end up spending a lot more time. Okay. Okay, back over to selection tool. Go to properties. I'm going to get rid of. It's got no fill. I'm going to get rid of the stroke. And we've got our line. Now we want to put our text on this line here. So I'm going to go over here to the text. Click on this here, and I'm going to type on a path tool. I'm going to use this here, and you can see here. I'm going to hover over this here, and you can see once I'm going to click on this here now, and some text has been added already. I've already copied some text, so I'm going to. I see my Adobe Illustrator at the moment isn't responding. Okay, it's responding again. So I'm copying some text, Control V. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm going to work with this for a second. I'm going to change the color. I probably need to select it first of all. Let's see. I'm just clicking on the text. Clicking on the text. I'm going to change the color to white. I do want a stroke. I want it to be black, but I want it to be very, very small. Click on this here on the right hand side. I'm clicking on the. Okay. I also want the text to be larger, and I also want it to come round. 18 maybe. Okay, that's much better. I'm also maybe going to space it slightly here. On the right hand side I'm working on the character, so I'm going to change this to maybe 10 for the moment. Maybe a little bit more. 25 might be too much. No, this is okay. Okay, I'm also going to click over here. Okay, that's looking quite good. Okay, you can see this. I'm going to move this slightly. Okay, good. I'm happy with that. Now, it may take you longer to get this right, but I've been looking in this case here that it's worked out so well. Okay, back over to my layer, and I'm going to lock the text layer. Next. No, I cannot lock the text layer. I've got something else to do. Back over here, I need to have an outline I've got a suitable color but I also need to put a shadow. So how do we do this? Text layer is selected. I want to see if I can Control Z. I'm going to select, and then I'm going to go up under Effects, Stylized. No, I'm going to use a drop shadow. That's not working. Try something else. I'm not sure. You must click on the non-compound. Okay. So I'm not going to click on the text. I'm going to click on this here. Selection tool. I'm going to. Okay. Now I'll try it. Effects. Stylize. Drop shadow. Now it's working. I'm going to press the preview button. Okay. I'm going to change these here to 0. This is the one that should. Okay, this is the one that we can see. There's a shadow. Now let's see how this looks. Back over here. Okay, and we've got our shadow. Okay, so again, Effects, Stylized, Drop shadow. And now I can lock this here. Our skis, fit them inside the larger circle. The skis cross over the bottom in front of the large and small circle, but behind the mountains and the text. Okay. Create a new layer. rename it skis. Okay, I know working with the skis here is going to be a little bit difficult for me, so I'm actually going to hide these ones first of all. I'll work on my skis. So I'm on the skis layer here at the top. And how am I going to create the skis? I'm actually just going to create a rectangle. So click on this here. Now you might find different ways of doing this. Click on this here. I know that the height is probably about the smaller circle was 110. So maybe if we go for something like 120. And the width is quite small, maybe just 3 pixels, maybe a little bit bigger than that, but we'll see. Okay. I'm going to use the palm, not the palm tool, I'm going to use the selection tool to move it. I'm going to use the zoom tool to move into the bottom. I'm going to top left hand side, and you're going to use the, not this one, no, it's this one here. I'm going to use the curvature tool. Just click over that curvature tool. I'm going to just make this the bottom a little bit rounder. Okay. Use the palm tool, bring it back down, back up. Okay, I'm going to selection tool, move it down, because now I want to work with the top. Again, I'm going to use the zoom tool because I want to have the palm tool, and back over to the curvature tool. I want to get the curvature tool and I want to work with this here. So I click on this here, the path, and I'm going to drag it up. So I'll move it a little bit around. This might take a little bit of work and you might spend a little bit of time on it. I'm going to maybe add 1 or 2 here, and then press on it and drag it out slightly. Do the same with this one here. Okay. I'm going to view, fit all in window to see how it looks. I'm quite happy with that. And in the case of an exam, you may spend a little bit more time, but don't spend too much time. I'm going to go into properties because I want to put in a different fill. I'm going to put in just a light gray. We've got one ski, so now we need another ski. So we've got one. I'm going to Control C to copy, Control V to paste. What I'm also going to do over on the right hand side in properties, I'm going to flip this here. Now we've got our 2 skis. Now we need to cross them over, work with the active ski at the moment. Something like this here. Click on the other one. Again, move this over here. I'm working on the bottom of it at the moment. I just want to cross these 2 over. I'm going to lift this maybe at the top, move slightly back again. A bit up. Okay. What I'm going to also do here, select both of them. And on the right hand side in properties, you see I can group these together. So I think it might be a good idea to group them because then I can move them together. Back over to my layers because I want to see the other layers. Make these visible. You see what I'm doing on the right hand side. Okay, and the skis look quite good, but they're also the active ones, so they need to be moved into place. Quite happy with that. Maybe move them down slightly. But we need to move them behind the mountains and behind the text. So this is where I'm going to collect the skis on the right hand side, the layer, and move it down below mountains. Let's see what happens. And now we see that the skis have moved behind the mountains and also behind the text. back over to behind the text. The last thing we need to do is actually save it as a JPEG. One thing I should have done from the very beginning, I always recommend, is that from the very beginning that you save your file, even your Adobe Illustrator file, with this here, because should anything go wrong, at least you've saved, or should it crash, you've saved it. So I'm going to save it first of all as Adobe file. Now, I go into the folder I'm working with. I've already, from the very beginning of the exam, created a folder called exam, and with my center number and candidate number. I'm going to OK, it's saved. Oh, it hasn't saved yet. We see it here. I'll click on OK here. This I should have done at the very beginning. OK, here we've got our Adobe file. Now I'm going to save it as a JPEG. Saving as a JPEG means actually exporting it. So I'm going to export as. We're inside in my exam folder. Different options. I could also export as a PNG, SVG, or a JPEG. And the name is this here. To my folder. Oh no. Click OK. Check that it's been exported. And here we have our JPEG. Okay. Lastly, just one or two other recommendations. Make sure you use layers, because it will save you time if you redo anything. And make sure you label the layers. And also when we're working with symbols, we'll see the same when we're working with symbols with animate. And also, again, I'll reiterate the idea of having something like Notepad, where you can actually take notes, maybe you have to do calculations and so on, is very useful and will save you time in the long run. Thanks to Cambridge International Examinations for the resources and for OBS Suite, which I've used for recording this video.